You Booked It, episode 66. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Patrick Ortiz. Are you ready for this, Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. All right, Patrick is a multifaceted performer and entertainer, taking on roles in various mediums. Credits include TV, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, where he played Eddie, One Life to Live, and The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Broadway, West Side Story and Mamma Mia. Regional, Baz, Star-Crossed Love, where he was the dance captain, Romeo, and the understudy for the Ballroom Couple, just one of them. The Brat Pack, Altar Boys, the Muni production of West Side Story, Mamma Mia, Kathy Rigby's Peter Pan, and Orchid, a burlesque circus as lead vocals and vocal captain. Patrick also holds a BFA from Cal State Fullerton. Patrick, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps. Who you are, where you're from, where you're currently calling home, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
I grew up in beautiful, sunny San Diego. I grew up in East County, San Diego, in a town called Santee. I currently live in Los Angeles. I didn't start performing until I was around 16. I did start by playing piano at the age of 4 by ear, and eventually started lessons. I spent most of my childhood teen years actually focusing on sports and academics. I played around 14 years of competitive traveling soccer, competitive tennis, and track and field. And I was also heavily involved in academic league and competed in science field day competitions. So I didn't start theater until halfway through high school. And once I did, I was obsessed with it. And I decided I wanted to pursue a career in it. So I started the musical theater BFA program at Cal State Fullerton. It's a 2-year BFA program, and the first 2 years they make cuts every semester. So I was lucky enough to be part of the 11 that were chosen out of 140 approximately. After my junior year, I took an offer to be in West Side Story on Broadway. I moved to New York at 21 and have been performing ever since. My career as a performer, I mostly started off as dancer slash principal cover, and eventually found a way, or found my niche in swinging shows, which came very naturally to me. I feel like most swings to an extent are, triple threats, but plus they also have that brain organizational skill, which is incredible, and the ability to cover, you know, sometimes 13 tracks. Swings are pretty much superheroes. Yeah, they are, because it's not easy. Because whenever casting directors see a swing, or they see it on your resume, that's gold for them. But now, mainly in my career, I'm focusing on principal roles, trying to wean off the dancing since I'm not getting any younger. But it somehow always keeps popping up at auditions and calls and breakdowns. I'm like, all right, still kicking for a couple more years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I love that you brought up that you're a swing. You're a fantastic swing because I've had the pleasure of working with you. And
Thank you.
I also found the swing world, and you're right, it is crazy. And you said 13 tracks. I remember there was a time I was doing in Vegas 5 different shows
Uh-huh.
in 11 different tracks, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing from moment to moment, but it was
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
But I
Yeah,
I love that. I love swinging shows because you never know what you're
I
going to be
do
walking into.
too. Exactly. Exactly. And it's always a new show. I mean, not gonna lie, like the first maybe 6 or 7 shows are absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
But when you find your rhythm and you find your patterns, it's exciting because every show is new and different, and you have different dance partners and different people, and so I enjoy swinging a lot.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to this next section here. And Patrick, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
My quote is a quote that I've hung on to since college. I heard it from one of my acting teachers, and I can't remember the source of who said it. I'm sure it was one of the acting greats like Stanislavski or someone. But it goes like this. It says, "To be an actor is to have compassion for the human condition." And I think that just is a beautiful insight to what we do as actors. We have to have the capability to go inside different people from different walks of life and different backgrounds and go into their minds and understand how they function and believe them, whatever their truth is, and relate to them. And most of all, you have to root for them. You have to want them to win. And I think having compassion for the human condition applies to acting, but then it also applies to reality and real life and everyday life. And when you are forced to put yourself into other people's shoes for a living, you start to do it in real life, and it makes you a lot more understanding with strangers or people you don't agree with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're 100% correct with that. That us as performers and entertainers, and when we've been able to have the opportunity to play different roles, that when it translates into real life, the level of empathy
Empathy, yep.
overall within the
Hmm.
entertainment community, I think is some of the highest that you're going to find across any industry.
Of course. And that is validated and reflected in what the most successful people in our business, they're philanthropists, they're human rights activists, they're fighting for human trafficking, for like all these human rights, because they have empathy, they have compassion for the human condition. So I love that quote.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And let's move on to this section. So, Patrick, of course, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries either of us have probably ever experienced. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, of course, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Yeah. Yep, you're correct. It's not easy doing what we do. I would say a key challenge, an obstacle that I learned very early on in my career when I was first starting off in New York. I was 20 years old living in New York, and it's just getting an understanding of the business, but being prepared for overly prepared, I feel like, for auditions and callbacks. There was one specific invited call that I went to, and I thought I had it in the bag, and I definitely did not. And it's one thing when you mess up in a safe place, like in a master class or at college, but when it's in the real world, it's not so cute and it's not so fun. to laugh about. So yeah, and being overly prepared for me also helps battle my nerves, and just helps me just stay focused in the moment.
I love that. And you're so right. It's
Hmm.
so good to be prepared, but also calm, right? And I think being
Definitely.
prepared brings that calm when you enter that room.
Exactly. Exactly. Because when you're prepared, you have less things that you're thinking about, worrying about. You can just walk into the room, present the work that you worked on, be connected to the material, and be at peace with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Hmm.
Well, let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Like I said, I got started kind of late comparatively to other people that work in my business. But when I joined Cal State Fullerton, we had the opportunity to do this program called Front and Center, where they hired huge celebrity artists to perform for a benefit. And the students got to do a little opener for the artist. And our featured artist that I was cast in was the Steve Miller Band,
Yeah.
which was pretty epic.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to open the show playing the piano, singing old time rock and roll at the Honda Center in Orange County, which holds like 10,000 seats.
Oh, wow.
And and it was completely packed. So it was one of those moments where it was so special and magical, and it just felt the electricity. And I was like, I need to do this. It's not a hobby, it's my passion, it's my drive, it's what I'm going to do, whether or not I'm getting paid.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, let's piggyback on that real quick and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it, and what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment.
That moment, that one moment in time, like Whitney Houston said, that moment for me will forever be probably the most incredible moment of my life. It was when I booked West Side Story on Broadway. It was actually the time I booked it was my third time they called me in. I auditioned for the remount in 2009. I was 18 years old, and I had only had one semester of ballet training.
Wow.
and my friend who I was doing youth theater with, he's like, "We're going to LA. You should audition for West Side." And I was just excited to learn the choreography. Jerome Robbins' West Side Story choreography is
Yeah.
so iconic, and West Side Story was something. It was my favorite musical of all time. Like, we used to dance to it in our living room. My family, when we were little, and it has Puerto Ricans. So, being someone of Puerto Rican descent, it was exciting to see my people up there on stage being fierce.
Right.
So yeah, so I made it all the way to New York. The final callbacks in New York on my first call, and I didn't make it. I was devastated, heartbroken, cried a lot, and went back to school and continued 2 more years at school. And then they called me, asked me to come in again. And unfortunately, I couldn't come in because of school conflicts. And then finally, a month later, they called me again and they said, "Are you still available to come in?" And I said, "Yep." Flew to New York, had my final reading and singing. I read for Chino and sang for Arthur Lawrence, who wrote the script, West Side Story. He was 93 years old at
Wow.
the time. And it was funny because I was still so new and naive to musical theater. I didn't realize that was him.
Fair
So
enough.
everyone else was shaking in their boots, but I was like, "Oh yeah, he seems cool. He seems chill."
Yeah, ignorance is
um,
bliss.
yes, because if I would have known, I probably would have, had to use the restroom or something. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, and from there, I moved to New York at 21 and started Broadway.
That
It
is
was
amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
So good. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about the present for a moment. And what projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And hey, it's a crazy time right now. We are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
A project I recently just finished working on kind of correlates with how I see the entertainment industry moving forward during these crazy times and situation. So I recently just did an online Zoom live reading of a new musical called Bayard, and it's a story. The story is about Bayard Rustin, who was a civil rights activist in the 60s. He was colleagues with Martin Luther King Jr., and he was also a gay man. So this musical tells his story from his point of view of being a black man in the civil rights movement, but also having to hide his homosexuality and his love interest. So it's a beautiful, ironic story that here's this human rights activist who's having to hide part of himself from his own people, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all original music, it's original story, and we did it all via Zoom, which was a new frontier for all of us. And it was a learning process, doing music rehearsals and doing, scene work and acting exercises. And, we even had different Zoom meeting rooms where we were working on different scenes with different directors. So it was kind of exciting to explore this new technological frontier using our craft. Another thing I loved about working on this project was that when you're acting with someone who's on a screen and there's no set dressing, there's not a lot of context around you, you're in your apartment. But helped me to focus more on my listening as an actor, which I thought was incredible because there's no one else in the room. So you kind of have to listen.
Yeah, great. And is this Zoom experience that you had with this reading something that you see can be a viable solution moving forward into the future?
Yes, I think so. I definitely see us using this and adapting and moving forward. It's it's exciting and scary, but we got to keep moving forward. That's the only choice.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And it's time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am
Ooh.
going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Probably the fact that when you're an actor, you are constantly looking for work.
Yeah, it is the inevitability of this career choice, isn't it?
Yes, there is no set in stone. There is no promise for tomorrow. You're constantly having to be rehired, and that's
Absolutely,
a very daunting situation.
for sure. And the second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
In order to be successful in this business, you have to have three things: talent, technique slash training, and good work ethic slash discipline. But you need those three things in the reverse order.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So everyone always assumes that, oh, you're talented, you're going to be successful. But it's the reverse. I feel like in order to be truly successful in this business, first, you should have good work ethic and discipline. Second, you should have technique and training to back it up. And third is talent. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people who are incredibly talented, and I've seen their work in different projects or other places, and then because they don't show up on time or they aren't prepared or their pickup isn't as quick as a dancer or technique is lacking, they don't book the job, Someone who is on time, prepared, ready to work, eager to work is always going to get the job 100% because that's someone who's reliable and who you want to work with.
Absolutely. Could not agree more with that. And
Hmm.
the third question. What is something that is working for you right now or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Right now when we're in this weird chasm of reality, I've just been focusing on maintaining my crafts, singing, working on projects like Bayard, singing with friends, recording myself, doing covers, writing, whatever it is I need, doing dance classes. I know Broadway Dance Center is offering online dance classes if you have enough room in your home. But that way, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready when we're going to be thrown back into the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that everything that you just said is
Hmm.
you taking control of your art, of your craft, and you saying, I'm not waiting around for work and jobs to fall in my lap. I'm going to
Hmm.
do my own thing, stay prepared, and also just express yourself in other ways because I feel like sometimes us as artists, we have to do what it is that our art might be, whatever that is. And if we don't, it gets
Yeah.
bottled up and we have to let it out. You know what I mean? We have to create, we
Hmm.
have to do something because that's where we're fulfilled. And I love that you are taking the time to do that for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't have to be in music or acting, you can try expressing yourself artistically through cooking or through, something else, some other kind of medium.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fourth question, what is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
Honestly, YouTube and Google have been my best friends in figuring out career stuff and tools since I've been doing so much self taping and filming since I've been in LA for uh, TV shows and pilot seasons. It's important to have good lighting and know how to have a good setup and what works for self tapes. So I didn't know. So all I did was Google, how am I supposed to light? And I learned how to do 3-point lighting. And you Google, how am I supposed to film? And it's amazing how much free information and how willing people are to give information. So Google, learn tricks, learn little facts and tidbits because they're out there. And that way you just have this giant tool belt to pull from whenever you're in trouble or need it.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
If I could restart my career right now, I definitely would have all the discipline and knowledge that I've accumulated through experience firsthand. And I would have applied that. I can't reiterate how important it is to take pride in your craft and how you present it and how others perceive it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, through this podcast and talking to people, a lot of people have similar things to say, be disciplined, be reliable, really
Hmm.
be present with things. And a lot of those answers also we have to realize come from a place of maturity and
Mm.
from being there and screwing things up because all of us as professional entertainers, I don't think anyone could say I've been super determined all the time. We
Right.
all screw up throughout our careers and we've learned these lessons over time and
Mm.
hopefully hearing this time and time and time again on this podcast can help solidify in those that are coming up in this industry that this is a real thing. Please listen
Mm.
to the people that have been there and done that because there are certainly mistakes that I think all of us have probably made throughout our careers that we wish we wouldn't have done. And we've had to learn and grow from them. But there's so much knowledge right there sitting on the table for you to take that and to learn from that without having to necessarily experience those negative things yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to leave with everyone?
The golden nugget that I love to tell people is let your validation come from within yourself. When you allow others the opportunity to validate you, you also give them the opportunity to affect you negatively. But You hold the power of deeming your own success when you seek validation only from within, not from a booking, not from a callback, but from you. You know what is to be expected at the audition. You know what you did to prepare. So you walk in with your list of boxes that you need to check off. And if you went in, dressed appropriate, prepared, on time, connected to the material, sounded warm, and you feel good about it, then you booked it. And whatever they're thinking or saying behind the table doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that. That is such amazing and insightful advice for anybody listening out there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yes, you can check out the musical I just finished working on called Bayard at alanandgray.com. And also check out the season 1 of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist on NBC. I believe it's available for streaming on Hulu. It's a great new show, incredible cast. Musical theater is back in mainstream TV, which we all love and we all should be fans of. Yeah, so check it out.
Fantastic. And can people connect with you on social media?
Yes, I post everything that I'm working on, all my projects, all on my Instagram at patrick.m.ortiz.
Fantastic. And everyone listening out there, I put the links to everything he just said into the description of this episode. Patrick, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure to speak with you.
You too, Dane. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.